Dentistry looks local, familiar, and harmless. But behind the whitening ads and friendly front desks, a private equity machine has turned oral care into a financial extraction business. The model is simple: buy many small practices, merge them into one platform, and call it growth. In reality, it is a roll-up strategy built on scale and leverage. Private equity firms do not need to invent better dentistry. They need predictable cash flow, low competition, and enough debt to amplify returns through financial engineering. The first sale often feels like relief for the owner. A lifelong dentist cashes out, while the buyer promises support, modernization, and a stronger business future. Then the institutional design changes. Decisions move from the chairside to the boardroom, and the clinic begins answering to a hidden ledger instead of a patient. The pressure comes from metrics. More procedures, faster turnover, higher case acceptance, and tighter scheduling. The system rewards throughput, not necessarily clinical judgment. When a firm owns many clinics, the same logic spreads everywhere. Each office becomes a node in a network designed to maximize revenue per hour. That creates a structural flaw. The temptation is always to upcode, overbook, or recommend higher margin treatments, because small increases become massive profits across a roll-up. This is where hidden margins appear. A few extra dollars on hundreds of procedures, multiplied across dozens of clinics, can produce outsized returns for investors. Staff often feel the shift first. Assistants are stretched, hygienists are pushed, and dentists are expected to move faster inside a culture built around profit targets. Private equity rarely owns a single clinic for care alone. It owns a platform, then adds layers of management, consultants, and service companies that collect fees. Those fees are the hidden engine. The clinic pays for software, billing, recruiting, branding, and procurement, often to affiliated entities that sit inside the same ownership structure. Debt is the accelerator. Borrowed money buys the clinics, and borrowed money must be serviced. That means cash gets diverted away from resilience and toward lenders. In a fragile business, that creates risk. If reimbursements slip or costs rise, the pressure does not stay in the finance office. It reaches the treatment rooms. The industry survives partly through regulatory capture. Rules are fragmented, oversight is limited, and corporate structures can outpace the institutions meant to monitor them. That fragmentation matters. Dentistry is regulated in pieces, so a national buyer can exploit gaps between states, licensing rules, and enforcement capacity. The roll-up rarely stops at one acquisition. Growth becomes a race, because every new clinic can improve the financial story needed for the next refinancing. And every story needs a valuation. Investors want multiples to rise, so the business must look larger, more efficient, and more standardized than it really is. This creates a conflict at the core of the model. A clinic can be profitable while quietly eroding trust, continuity, and clinical independence. Doctors may still wear the white coat, but ownership changes the rules. When revenue goals dominate, the clinical decision can become a financial decision. That is why high-margin services matter so much. Cosmetic upgrades, implants, and financing plans can outperform routine care, especially when volume is pushed aggressively. Patients rarely see the full system. They see a recommendation, not the ownership chain behind it, and they rarely see how incentives shape that recommendation. That opacity is the advantage. Complex holding companies, shell entities, and affiliates can bury accountability, making the true beneficiary hard to identify. The hidden ledgers often live in plain sight. Fees move between entities, profits shift between subsidiaries, and the real economics become difficult for outsiders to trace. Many founders exit before the damage is visible. The next generation inherits the pressure, the debt, and the expectation to keep the machine running. This is not just consolidation. It is institutional design optimized for extraction, where every process is measured, standardized, and monetized. The profit margin looks modest on paper, but the real return comes from leverage, fees, and exit multiples. The accounting story and the cash story are not the same. When scrutiny rises, firms can pivot quickly. They change reporting, restructure ownership, or sell to another buyer, keeping the economics alive while the names change. That is the signature of the roll-up machine. Brand turnover hides continuity, and continuity hides the fact that the same financial logic keeps driving the system. The local community pays twice. It loses a trusted practice, then inherits a system where decisions are filtered through investors who may never meet a patient. Uniformity is sold as efficiency. But when every office looks the same, the model can also erase local judgment, local ethics, and local accountability. The central question is simple: who benefits from the system? Patients want care, employees want stability, but the ownership model is built to reward capital. That is why this story matters. Dentistry becomes a case study in how private equity can reshape a public-facing service without changing the product label. The machine is not invisible. It is just normalized. Once the incentives are designed around leverage and extraction, the outcomes follow with brutal consistency. And that is the real scandal, not one bad actor, but a structure that turns ordinary care into a platform for hidden profit and systemic risk. If you want more investigations into the hidden mechanics of money, power, and institutional capture, subscribe for more.